Alright, so we're checking out the GoFLY HEX35. This is a 3.5 inch Cinewhoop, and let's just go quickly over what comes in the box. So you do get a manual, get a few spare parts, screws for the quad, get a bunch of zip ties, get a screw and nut for the GoPro mount, get a spare set of prop guards in this smoke color, and the ones that are on here are in black and solid. The manual is pretty good. It does have your important wiring diagrams, of course, for different versions of receivers, as well as the wiring diagram and specs for the flight controller, which is an all-in-one flight controller. And you can see this is using an AIKON all-in-one flight controller, 60 amps, F7, BMI 270 gyro, 16 megabytes of black box data, Beta Flight OSD, of course. It does come with a 5 volt 2 amp and a 10 volt 2 amp BEC, and does 3 to 6S. The ESCs are BLES and they are BlueJ firmware compatible. And speaking of the flight controller, they actually sent along this prototype all-in-one flight controller, which is also an F7. I think this is the next version of what's on here. So I'm just going to quickly show you this. I don't have any information about this. I will put a link to this down in the video description when I find out what this is. But yeah, it looks pretty similar to the one that's on there, but I think they split out a secondary board for the MCU and the OSD chip. And I guess, the main ESC parts are on the main board itself, like the FETs and everything. But just wanted to quickly show you what this was. I think this is the V2 of that board that's on the Cinewhoop already. So this does come in different receiver versions. You can just get the plug and play, no receiver, of course. You can get the DJI version, which comes with 2 different cameras. You can get the Caddx Nebula Pro or the Runcam Wasp. And then the different receiver versions are going to be Express LRS and TBS Crossfire. This GoPro mount is not included. This is something I just kind of made up myself. So let me know if you're interested in the STL. I'll probably put it up on my Cults 3D account. So if you're thinking this is looking awfully familiar, and it does look very familiar to their first model, this is the Geek 35. And this, don't ask me how they came up with these names. I don't know why they call us the Hex35, because there's obviously, this is a quadcopter, not a hexacopter, and there's no hexagons in the shape. This is an octagon-shaped prop guard, so who knows why they named this the Hex35, but that's just, what happened. But if you're wondering, well, this looks really awfully familiar to the Geek 35, it's very, very close. Basically, you have the main difference is the frame and the carbon fiber prop guards here versus the plastic prop guards on the Hex35. Obviously, difference in weight. And you're wondering, hey, where was the review of this one? Obviously I've had this for a while. I'll explain why you didn't see a video on this one a bit later with some important lessons about quadcopter design, but I want to talk about that a little bit later in the video. But basically, this is the same model as the one I just showed you, the Geek 35. It's just a slight difference in the frame, obviously a difference in the prop guards. It's got the same electronics. It's got the same F7 all-in-one AIKON flight controller board. That's the exact same one there. It's kind of hidden. Can't really see it too well. It's got the same 2004 motors. So these are 2004 1800 kV motors. And this is, when you get the 1800 kV motors, this is meant for 6S batteries. If you get the, I think it's the 2700 or 2900 kV version, then that's meant for 4S lipos. And then you can see that the little camera cage here is the same as on the Geek 35 model. There's a slight difference in the frame, that holds everything together, but again, it's really, really similar. So I guess the difference comes down to whether or not you want a plastic prop guard versus a carbon fiber prop guard. I'm also told that both models are going to be sold simultaneously. So if you guys are familiar with my Cinewhoop videos, I've done videos on previous 3.5 inch models like the Cinelog 35 and the Blue Cat 35. that also came with these 2004 motors. And they have since, I guess the 2004 size has since kind of come out of favor, in favor of the larger 2105.5 motor, which comes now pretty much standard on most 3.5-inch Cinewhoops, but you get an overall heavier quadcopter in exchange for that larger motor that gives you more power. And the reason that the previous manufacturers have gone from 2004 to 2105.5 is to be able to carry these full-size GoPros and still be able to do some, some minor amounts of acro, but basically to have much more control over the weight of a full-size GoPro. And if you saw my previous videos, the 2004 motor, it can carry the full-size GoPro, as you'll see here in the flight footage. I have a Hero 6 on here. It carries it no problem. But if you want to do a little bit more aggressive flying, a little bit more acro type flying, flips and rolls, maybe flying a little more aggressively, have a little bit more maneuverability and agility, then the bigger motor obviously comes in handy. But if you're mainly using this as a Cinewhoop, slow flying, proximity flying, that kind of thing, then the 2004 motor is going to be fine for that. But obviously, people complained that it didn't have enough power because they couldn't do the same acro tricks that they were trying to do with their 5-inch quad with this 3.5-inch prop quad. So I think that's why the manufacturers kind of switched to from the 2004 to the 2105.5 motor, is because of some people that want to do much more aggressive flying with their 3.5-inch Cinewhoops. All right, so coming back to the Geek 35 and why you never saw a video on this one. So you can see here how similar the camera cages are and the frame. I mean, it's super similar. And I will now reveal what happened. So you can see here on this motor, these motor wires are cut. And how that happened is, if you look at what is missing here, there's no tape that's holding the motor wires like they have on the Hex35. And that's securing the motor wires here, etc. So what happened was, as you know, I just basically, I don't even really care how the manufacturer sends it to me, because it's not my job to scrutinize the design before I fly it. I figure if there's any flaws, I'll discover it when I fly it. And boy, did I discover a big flaw when I flew this one. I was in the air for not very long, maybe 15, 20 seconds. And I made a hard turn. And that's when it just basically went to the ground, because when that happened, the wire, these motor wires here had a little bit too much slack. They weren't being secured by the tape that should have been here, and of course the prop immediately cut that motor wire, and without this motor, it just goes right into the ground, and yeah, so I crashed. And I'm pretty busy, so I could have probably soldered that together and fixed it, whatever. I just told them, I emailed the people at GoFly and said, hey, you should have put some tape on here to secure the motor wires, which obviously now they are doing on the Hex35. Hopefully they're now doing that on this model as well. So if you happen to have one of these and you haven't had this problem yet and you don't have the tape, you probably should put the tape on there to secure those motor wires. Just letting you know, but they probably fixed that problem by now. But anyway, what happened was they told me that they were going to send me another one of these. So okay, fine, I'll just wait for the one to come. And instead of another one of these coming, they sent this model. I was like, what's this? Is this a new version? Is this an updated version of this model here? Like, why are you discontinuing this one? They told me, no, they're going to keep on selling this one, and they're going to be selling this new model. So they did not send me a replacement for this. They just sent me this one. Is it going to fly a whole lot different? Probably not. There's a little bit of difference in the weight distribution because the carbon fiber is heavier than the plastic. So in terms of, I think, agility, it's going to be a little bit less responsive in terms of the more weight being on the outside part of the quad compared to the plastic ones. So that's probably the only difference. Of course, I can't really tell you because I didn't get to fly this for more than about 15, 20 seconds before it crashed. But yeah, you know, an important lesson. Make sure your motor wires are secure in all your builds, especially for you guys that are manufacturing these and selling these to customers. Alright, so here is what it weighs. It's 258 grams, no battery, no GoPro. And if you're wondering, I flew this with a Tattoo 1200 milliamp hour 6S and a G&B 1300 milliamp hour 6S battery, getting roughly 4 to 5 minutes of pretty aggressive flying. If you're flying a little bit slower, you could probably stretch that out to about maybe 6 or 7 minutes. Anyway, overall, pretty typical of a 3.5-inch Cinewhoop with these sort of specs. Nothing really out of the ordinary in terms of flight characteristics, about what I expected. Anyway, that's going to do it for this video. Talk to you guys in the next one.